And so speaking of is what it is, that's how you could maybe sum up a lot of the Saints players' attitudes towards OTAs as, it is what it is, man. We learn to train. We don't need to be there. However, Dennis Allen saying you do need to be there for mini camp. So let's start there. Very basic question here, Nick. Are all of the currently employed New Orleans Saints expected to be at mini camp?
As far as I know, all the ones I was able to check up on, get replies on, some of the guys that you think might not be there, it sounds like they're all going to show up. You never know if something changes in the 13th hour or whatever. Someone looking for a contract or something like that might decide to take a different stance suddenly. But I don't think that's going to be the case here. I think we're going to see kind of real practices, which is going to be nice because OTAs, there's a lot of guys missing. And, yeah, we're hyping up someone like Lucas Kroll, the undrafted tight end. But then you kind of look at it, and it's like he's getting open against linebackers that probably aren't going to be, on an NFL team because Demario Davis is moving, so somebody's moving up in Davis's place, and now you got a middle linebacker, a weak side linebacker that's just kind of filling in. So we should get a better barometer on a lot of the questions that need to be answered. Look, I think it is important that these guys are there. Obviously, it's mandatory. But as you got a new head coach trying to establish a culture, and you need to have kind of that touchstone before everybody disappears for 6 weeks or whatever it's going to be until training camp. So I think it's important they get everybody out there. They start building that culture post Sean Payton, and that should happen over the next 3 days.
Well, okay, and real quick on Kroll, because you're right, he has been being consistently mentioned, and it's at a position where you would really need someone, a diamond in the rough would be so welcome. Talk about tight end. Because you have dove into Lucas Kroll's college film. Have you seen anything out of him? And like you said, we'll see during minicamp, but have you seen anything out of him that says maybe this is real?
The moments in practice have looked good. He's getting open. He has a feel for how to get open and get zone coverage, which I think will help him a little bit. He's gotten up the seam a few times, and historically that's been a productive route for tight ends in this offense. We'll see how that continues with Jameis. And like you said, it is at a position where there is a lot of weakness, and there's Nick Van Ette and kind of, nobody else. Juwan Johnson really hasn't been doing a lot in OTAs. I don't know if he's limited, but he hasn't gotten a ton of snaps out there, and Taysom Hill's off rehabbing his foot. So, there is a lot of openness there, but if they drafted him, after they draft a player, I go back, I watch everything they did. I don't normally do that with UDFAs. Over the weekend, I did take the time to watch him. If they had drafted him and I had done that film study, I wouldn't have came on here the next Tuesday morning excited. It would have just been like, maybe he has a chance. There's straight line speed, but there isn't a lot of agility, kind of getting in and out of his breaks. He looks a little bit heavy on his tape at Pittsburgh. There's not a lot of fluidity in his motion. It's kind of like straight line mechanical. He blocks decently enough. But, I mean, there's guys kind of with that skill set in the NFL that are succeeding. So he needs to find a way to do it. But I don't think he's blowing anybody away with his tape, which is why he's an undrafted player. But
yeah.
He's at the right spot. He's with the right team to make a run and make a roster. And, obviously nobody's getting cut or making a team in June. But, he's taking advantage of the exposure. And I'm going to be he's one of the guys on the top of my list, just a 3-day exposure. I don't know if we happen to catch 2 really good practices out of the 9 OTAs. Seeing these guys kind of an elongated window, you kind of get a better feel for who's actually playing well instead of who happens to be flashing the day we're allowed to be out there. So, I think he's off to a good start, but I do think there is still a long way to go for him.
Okay, outside of maybe the first round picks, any other rookies that have kind of flashed to you?
Not really. I mean, the guys on defense, kind of, linebacker, defensive line, that's not the best evaluation for no pads type of play, they aren't hitting anybody or anything like that. Penning, I think he moves okay. I think that there's a lot of stuff that he still needs to learn and pick up. We'll see how that goes. Avonte Taylor, I mean, he's an exciting player, the way he moves, his size, everything he does. Abram Smith, I think, the running back, we've talked about him a few times. I think what we're seeing early on is encouraging out of him. He moves well, catches the ball well. Again, I mean, kind of reading what a running back can do when guys are actually have the green light to hit them is a little bit different than this no pad stuff. But I mean, the drafted guys, and I'd say Kroll and Abram Smith are kind of the two UDFAs that are flashing the most early on.
All right, we're talking Nick Underhill here at Nick_Underhill on Twitter. NewOrleans.football is the site. Go sign up today. Just renewed my membership for another year. Nick, what was your reaction to this Sean Payton story? Now, we've talked in the past about Brady and Payton maybe going to Miami. Maybe the shocking part about this is it's being reported that Miami was going to pay Payton somewhere in the range of either 5 years, $100 million, or 4 years, $100 million. First off, do you know anything like in terms of the truth of this, and what's your takeaway from that story?
Well, I know from the Saints side, they kind of reached out through a back channel to see if Sean would be interested, if the Saints would be interested in what I heard back in February when this first started coming out was that it was no on both sides. Sean was he wanted to step away and not coach for a year. And I don't think the Saints coming straight off, they weren't going to let him quit his job and then go immediately to another job. It was, okay, Sean, you don't want to coach? Fine. You aren't coaching, so you aren't coaching. That was kind of their stance on it. But I don't even think he pushed for it. The craziest thing about this story is that all the reporting is coming out from local Miami reporters, which tells me, as a reporter, those are probably people connected to the team telling these guys things. Why are you undermining your coach to this level? You hired somebody else, like you're undermining him with each one of these leaks, like trying, pay Sean $20 million. I guarantee Mike McDaniel isn't getting paid $20 million. So it just kind of feels like it's just like a little bit dysfunctional there, which has kind of been the story on the Dolphins forever. But they need to clamp up these leaks and let their coach kind of be the guy, like let him feel like he was the person chosen. Like every one of these stories tells the players hey, this isn't really the guy that they want. Like it kind of undermines his authority a little bit. And I would be searching to tighten up these leaks if I was somebody in that organization.
Nick, does Sean Payton coach again in the NFL?
And does he get paid that kind of money if he does?
I think he does coach again in the NFL, and the sooner it happens, the better it is for the Saints. The more the team wants to pay him, the better it is for the Saints, because that means the more compensation they get. So, him going straight to Miami, that probably would have been a good thing for the Saints, because him going from the Saints to another team, that gives the Saints the most bargaining power that they have. The longer he sits out, it's just kind of like this asset sitting there, and it's just well, all right, cool. We don't give you anything for him, you aren't getting anything for him. So I think that kind of hurts their negotiating power a little bit. But I do think he's going to coach. I can't imagine him being completely away from the game. I don't know that if he's going to be satisfied with being Bill Cowher, sitting in a studio making some jokes, laughing. I think he's too competitive of a person, and I think he's going to want that next chapter at some point, probably sooner than later. So, I definitely think we'll see him in the league. And, look, I think teams should pay their staffs and their scouts and, as much as you possibly can for the talent, as long as it's worth it. That's the one place where you can really, overcome anything with a checkbook. And there is no cap. And, you can create an advantage by, really investing in your front office, your coaching staff, your analytics department, all this stuff. So, I think that's something that teams should do more. But too often you hear about them being cheap and their scouts, barely making any money. And I think if a team, and look, I think the Saints have done a good job of this. They got a lot of guys in scouting positions that were in higher up jobs, and now they're here in their coaching staff. You see the same thing. So I think they do a pretty decent job investing in that infrastructure. But I definitely think that's a place where teams could kind of moneyball the situation, and I don't know if enough do.
Look at this report. Nick Underhill of NewOrleans.football reports that the Saints are hosting David Johnson on a visit. Interpretation therein. Because we kind of talked about it earlier, right? David Johnson's not going to be RB1, but he does seem like, when combined with Ingram and the Baylor cat, he seems like maybe a piece of that puzzle. What can you tell us about how David Johnson's visit with the Saints went?
So I know he was there yesterday. He met with Dennis Allen. I didn't hear how it concluded. I'm guessing we'll find out in about an hour when they're out of practice if he's out there or not. They also Joe Schobert, the linebacker, this week too. I don't know if he actually came in or not, but Anthony Barr was another name that was kind of floating around out there. So we can kind of say that for sure that they're definitely still looking at running backs and linebackers which makes a lot of sense. In the case of David Johnson, look, if Alvin gets suspended, I think he has a similar skill set. You can probably still operate your offense the same way without, having to make drastic changes. You can still call the same stuff. I don't think you get the same quality of play, obviously. But, I think David Johnson probably has enough juice to give you 3-4 games if Alvin's out. And I think that's kind of all they really need. If he gives you more, even better. I'll say that I'm forever going to be a David Johnson believer off of just that one amazing 2,000-yard season. Every time his name comes up, it's kind of like, oh, okay, what's he doing? But it's been a while since we saw that. But, yeah, I think he can still give you a little something. And I think just having that veteran guy in there, that Abram Smith and Zigbo and, some of these other Tony Jones Jr., needs to overcome to make the team. I think it's good to just kind of have that barrier instead of just kind of granting roster spots to UDFAs. So whether it's him or somebody else, I think they absolutely need to get one, and linebacker too. I think they need to add another guy there.
Yeah, and as many, Nick, as they've brought in on visits, and as many as they've maybe been linked to, certainly, like, they think AK's going to miss some time. Like, obviously, you might not know how much, but they think, bringing in these guys, you have Mark Ingram already on the roster, you have a couple of other bodies. They think AK's at least going to miss 3 games.
I think you got to prepare for the possibility for sure. I mean, I think it's a likely outcome, and if this thing ever goes to court, videos probably come out, and at some point, it's just kind of is what it is. Like as long as there's a legal ruling, like the league's probably gonna do something to discipline him. So yeah, I mean, I think you got to prepare for it. I think they're looking at it that way, like he's probably going to get suspended, but. Last year they were looking at the Lattimore thing for quite a while, like he was going to get suspended, and he never did. So if somehow this case disappears, maybe it doesn't happen. But the way they're kind of operating in Vegas, I don't know that you would think that outcome's gonna occur. They kind of want to, it seems like they want to make an example of this situation. So as long as they're approaching it like that, I think the Saints got to be prepared for the possibility that Alvin's going to miss, at least 3-4 games.
Right now on New Orleans Football, there's an excellent mandatory minicamp preview where you mentioned some of the things that you are most excited on seeing on the field now that we're out of OTAs and the whole team should be there. Can you give us like a top 2 or 3? I don't want you to just read out the whole article, but what are you most excited to see during minicamp? Just give us a little tease to the people who sign up for New Orleans Football.
Well, I'll start off with the easy, obvious one. I want to see Chris Olave go against Marshawn Lattimore and just see how that looks. Like, can you get open against them? There isn't going to be press coverage in a mini camp where nobody has pads, but still, like 2 guys with 4.3 speed kind of battling to get open. Like, how fluid are his moves? Like, how quick can he get in and out of his breaks? All that stuff. I mean, that's kind of the ultimate test. Higher level. The thing that I've kind of been tracking a little bit through the OTAs is just how they're lining up on defense, what coverages they're using. And again, it's obviously very early, but you can kind of get an idea of like sort of what the base install is going to be. And it's looked like they're playing more cover 3 than they have in the past. Last year it was cover 1, which is a single high coverage, and then quarters coverage. And, it would make sense to move away from some of those cover 1 looks if you don't have a guy with Marcus Williams range, and you kind of got 2 guys that got a little bit of range, but maybe not necessarily that you want to have patrolling the whole field on like 67% of the snaps or whatever it was. So I wouldn't be shocked to see a little bit of a change there. And then, in some of those cover 3 looks, you can start out showing like a 2 safety shell with Tyron and Marcus May, and they, one drops, one goes back, and you get some of that interchangeability in disguise. So I just kind of want to see like what they're doing over this 3-day window, and kind of, at least get like a base expectation of what it might end up looking like as they get deeper in the training camp.
Nick Underhill at Nick_Underhill on Twitter. Go sign up for NewOrleans.football. Football season is quickly approaching, y'all. We're just a couple of months away, and if you want the entire process to be broken down in the correct way, learn as much about this team as you can before the season begins, NewOrleans.football is your friend in that regard. Nick, thanks so much, man.
Hey, you fellas going to go get a government taco together and get wet or what?
Mario had them all.
Boys, I'm about to have a taco orgy. Me and the fellas. It's going to be great, dude. All right, Nick, enjoy your pickled onions, man.